Welcome to my humble little office. My name is R. Keith Andrews. I am a spiritual guide and paranormal adept. The journey continues today on Good Question on October 25th, 2025 at approximately 8 p.m. PST. Now, I bill myself as a spiritual guide because the tools I offer are the same tools I personally use in my day-to-day life. And the philosophies of life I talk about are the same philosophies I guide virtually every decision I make by. Now, with this in mind, I know these tools will work for you because they continue to work for me and have literally worked for thousands of other people with varying degrees of success depending on their own personal efforts. Now, before we get into things, we are looking at the first thing I'd like to do is tip my hat to Storm. He is our primary moderator that sits in the background and makes sure that tech keeps running properly, as well as making certain that any problem children are outside the room before they become problem children. Now, coming into the room, we have Mike Jones is here with the gold. How you doing, Mike? Glad you could join us. Today we are going to be taking a look at a positive perspective on alien abductions. I have seen a staggering number of people that say they are alien specialists or that they know exactly what's going on. And I am not the only one that knows what's going on. Don't get me wrong. I am not the be all and end all, nor the only authority on it. I don't consider myself an authority anyway. I do have a reasonable amount of experience with it, as in 62 years of dealing with them. Now, the thing is, there's a lot of different reasons that people are getting abducted. But let's look at the outlying side here. People go, "Oh, Earth is in danger of an alien attack." If that were the case, first of all, you guys wouldn't know about it until after it was over. Secondly, this would lead to figuring out, one of the abduction reasons would be to find weaknesses. Well, humans are excessively fragile, very easy to repair, don't get me wrong. Some people have said blood types, and I forget exactly which blood type people have pinpointed, but many people have told me that abductions are higher with certain blood types. Well, let's get something clear here. Okay, they are taking place. I'm not telling you they're not. Okay, but let's look at the reality of it. Humans, if you will, abduct. They abduct tigers and fish and snakes and hamsters. They do blood tests on them. They tag them and cut them loose. Humans, just for some weird reason, don't like being tagged. And I'm telling you, the tigers don't either. Okay, but one of the important things we have to realize is if they are doing research on AB negative blood, then that's the type of blood type. That's the blood type that they're going to be abducting people for. And yes, off-worlders have the technology to gauge your blood type from orbit. Renee Andrews, you are in with the silver. Welcome aboard. Glad you could make it. And again, if they're doing research based on O-type blood, well, bad news. That means that the O-type blood people are going to be the primary targets. Okay, it's just simple mathematics. Okay, that is one of the reasons for doing abductions. Now, one of the biggest things you got to realize is that at this point in time, with mankind where it is, mankind is on the verge of either jumping to the next social and technological level, or blowing themselves right out of the ballpark again. Okay, in either event, this is an extremely exciting time from a xeno-socioeconomic standpoint. It's a very exciting time for off-worlder research. So this is why they're around. Now, if Earth were quarantined, as in you're not allowed to come and go, then you couldn't get that many abductions. Okay, you just couldn't do it. I mean, think about it. You know, if we're dealing with a high security prison, people are locked down, they're not allowed to come and go. Well, if the off-world is quarantined Earth, then what you've got is a situation where they're not going to let other members of their society go in and abduct people. Now, there is no doubt there is some black market stuff going on. It doesn't take a genius to figure out everybody doesn't follow the law. But what we have to realize is that when you're dealing with abductions, there is a methodical reason for it. And the Galactic Consortium, the governing body of the off-world races, is one that is looking at it going, okay, we've got to keep this contained. Yes, these guys need to do their research. So as long as they stay within guidelines, there's no problem. But the safety nets that the consortium has to ensure that this is followed are a little extreme, at least in my eyes. Okay, so what you're dealing with here is abductions are happening, people are being tracked, and quite often you'll find if one person in a bloodline has been abducted, you can almost bet that it goes back a few generations. Okay, because it's like watching the migration of animals, and the migration that humans do of animals. Well, here's a cute thought for you, Renee. Renee Andrews is just going, well, I'm glad I'm not O and blood type. The fact is, whatever type you are, whether it's O, AB positive, AB negative, RN, it doesn't matter. I don't know what all the blood types are. But whatever blood type that race is working on, that ups the odds of whoever is of that blood type. Now, I'm not one to tell you, if you've got that blood type, you're going to get abducted. Bob, how you doing? You are in with Bob Thorsten. Is in with the bronze. Glad you could join us there, Bob. So they are not only, by the way, if you're worried about Big Brother, as in human governments tracking what you're up to, they got nothing on what the off-worlders can pull off. Okay, so yes, off-worlders are tracking, like let's say you live in one house and you move and you've already been abducted. You can bet your bottom dollar that somebody up there has a record of that. Okay, so moving doesn't work that well if you're using it as a method of hiding from off-worlders. Okay, what we're looking at is they will also keep an eye out for where you're moving, what kind of people you're interacting with. Like they go to extremes in some cases. Now, the most common ones that come and collect people are, of the reticulans, who most people call the Greys. Now, the Greys, if you ever want to see try that in English. If you'd like to see the best movie I ever saw dealing with the reticulans, watch Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Okay, that it's an old movie from back in the 80s, I think. Might have been the 70s. Okay, but they show a perfect rendition of it. Now, the Greys are, as you'll see, a very fragile little race. As in, they're very wiry. They're only around the 3-foot tall mark. These guys are not built for combat on the whole. But this is why many times, especially with the reticulans, they will also have, 2 or 3 of the Gedefni with them. The Gedefni as the Nords. The Gedefni just happen to be what they call themselves. But because the Gaddafi are close to the 6-foot mark and built like a freight train, and they also look a lot more human. They make it easier for humans to relax a little. And the reality of it is, when you're dealing with an abduction, they're looking to get blood samples. They're looking to get skin samples and various other fluids. So they're not trying to kill people. Most of the time, what happens is they abduct somebody, take their samples, implant a tracking device, and they put you back. Yes, they do have memory overlays. Okay, most common amongst these are either deer, at least with the reticulans. The most common overlays are with deer or owls, because the eyes are about the right shape. LA Moon has just entered the room. LA Moon is our primary moderator inside the chat room. She is also the one that tends to help keep the conversation going if things stall, or ask questions if nobody's asking. Okay, so definitely a hats off to LA. Hopefully things are going well on your end and your energy is finally coming back up to snuff. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm a firm believer. Oh, and look at that. We have Philip Blair in with honorable mention. Philip, how you doing? Glad you could join us. The reality of it is this. Being abducted is quite frightening for most people. Honestly, Philip, the reticulans and the Gaddafi do not. However, if you take a look at the Teklek, which are a 4 to 5 foot long, 3 foot tall, raptor-like reptilian, those guys do find humans rather delicious. But here's the thing, they are limited on the amount of hunting they can do. Okay, they actually there's a lot going on in those particular groups, because the Teklek, some of their people did not approve of what was going down. Okay, as far as trying to clear the planet. Plus the Teklek have a civil war going on. Plus they have a conflict going on with the Strazazians, which is 7.5 to 8.5 foot reptilians that are actually here to protect humans. So yeah, and they are big. The nice part about these Strazazians, they grow their own armor. You got to remember, Strazazians come from a high gravity planet. Okay, but when you're looking at abductions, many different races are abducting people. Okay, and if this planet were quarantined, as in you're not allowed to go onto it, then number one, we wouldn't have alien sightings. Number two, you wouldn't have any abductions. Because here's what happens when an abduction process is violated. Okay, or more to the point, when an invasion attempt is instigated. Invasion, or somebody stepping in and trying to take a position in a government official, in a high-ranking government official, or in the ownership of a business, of a conglomerate. Okay, because they're completely forbidden to do that. If they violate that, then what happens is the consortium goes to the offending race's home planet. They go to the home planet and the planets that house the primary, secondary, and tertiary governments, and eliminate the planets. This is a pretty good incentive not to break the law. Okay, so I mean, we are looking at that as well. But the abductions, there are a few things that they're looking at. Because you got to remember, humans on the whole, even though most humans don't realize it, have the capacity to manipulate what humans are calling 0-point energy. also known as reality bending. So this is a frightening concept for most off-worlders because humans have a propensity for shooting first and asking if we're friendly second. It doesn't make sense to me, but that seems to be the way they work. So when you're looking at abductions taking place, yes, they are taking place. Now, to the best of my knowledge, no government is still holding any sort of a contract with any of the off-world races. Primarily, as I've been told, it's because humans have broken virtually every contract they made. Okay, so they are not known, humans on the whole are not considered trustworthy. Okay, now don't take offense to that if you yourself feel that you're trustworthy. Okay, we're not talking about you as an individual. We're talking about the race as a species. Okay, so I mean, we got to take a look at that. Well, I guess technically you don't have to, but what they're looking for, like a little bit on the broad side, the off-worlders are looking to see, are humans on the whole treating each other as a unified species? Or are they still caught up in the idea of, oh, you're the wrong skin color? Robin, how you doing? Glad you could join us. Now, I don't think I've seen you in here before, and if you have been, my apologies, but welcome aboard. If you've got a question, okay, absolutely put it in the chat room, but please put it in all caps so that I can find the thing, because I'm working on a real small screen right now. Although I finally got the adapter to get the bigger screen. Now, what do we got? Here we are. Philip's going, I've just started to bend reality just this week. It's quite difficult, but I'm making progress, and it's definitely worth pursuing. They call it lucid dreaming. Now, I will warn you about something. Okay, lucid dreaming is one of these things that I strongly recommend you do not pursue. And here's why. Lucid dreaming means you're modifying your dreamscape. And the dreamscape's purpose is for your subconscious to let you know what's going on. If you take dominant control of your dreamscape, you'll miss the warnings, you'll miss the insights. And Robin, if you would be kind enough to thank your boyfriend for us, that would be really appreciated. We definitely are doing our best to keep this a safe place for everybody, excluding bullies, and we just put on the outside. And I'm laying odds you just don't fit there, or your boyfriend. One of the nice little things that I found with lucid dreaming is the moment you modify it, you lose the insights. Now, that said, a couple of things you can work with, okay, that won't damage the insights. Take a look at cloud busting, okay, and what that is you stare at a sky, look at an overcast sky, or just broken clouds. Pick a cloud, okay, and then focus on literally pulling it apart. See it coming apart in your mind's eye, and watch. Of course, keep an eye open for wind changes and what have you that may contribute. But if you can spot it on a still day and pull it apart, yes, it's only circumstantial. Okay, but enough circumstantial evidence will help. Where are we here? I'm just looking. Bob Thorson is going, I had a being, well, let me just stop. There we go. Had a being by my bed that woke me up when it removed a metal rod from my mouth. They were all in black, disappeared through a black doorway. I'm not sure if I was abducted though. Well, I'm going to leave whether you were abducted to your own memories. I will tell you, if as you've laid out, they removed a metal rod, they likely what you were dealing with is somebody coming in to remove a tracking device, a tracking recorder. Okay, and being dressed all in black, that takes it outside the reticulans. There are other races that can do it. Okay, but it takes it outside of the reticulans because the reticulans don't tend to dress in black. Okay, now that said, what am I looking at here? Blue, how you doing? Glad you could join us. You know, the other thing you'll find with abductions, they are picking people up so that the off-worlders can talk directly to natives, as in the common people, common humans that speak various languages, and this is why it happens globally, because they are striving to learn how to communicate with humans. Now, not all off-worlders have telepathy, okay? And not all of them can speak English. Here we are. Phelps going, I've been having more insights, to be honest, because I'm remembering now. I'm definitely not in control. That's a bonus, okay? And absolutely, when you are waking up with a dream, even if all you remember is that you were dreaming, okay, write it down. Okay, and write down whatever you remember and carry on from there. And here's the kicker. The more you write down, the more you're likely to remember. This will help you in your memory recall and help piece things together. You know, one of the important factors that I find with abductions is, when I say I've got friends in high places, I've also got friends in very low places. But this is because I look at all peoples being human, alien, ancient races, plants, animals, elementals. You get the picture. Okay. All of these peoples I see as equals. Okay, so I've got friends all over the galaxy. Okay, actually, in all fairness, all over the universe. I've even got friends on different star systems. And yes, I know that sounds like I'm completely off my nut. Not to worry, I question that myself a lot. You know, one of the biggest factors I find when we're dealing with the whole concept of abductions, okay, is understand every species that I know of believes in some higher power. Now, they're not always called by the same name, and I really should do that. Let me do this. As you guys know, trusty clipboard. I make notes for myself to make sure I get to things. Because I make notes so that I can actually hopefully stay on track. One of the challenges I have, and this is why I keep missing days. Just for those of you that are not aware, 2 weeks ago I was in the hospital and quite literally dead. Cardiac arrest is a lousy way to spend the weekend. So I'm having a little fun trying to get back on my feet. Couple that with scam calls that were way too realistic for my liking, causing added stress levels. But I am getting my feet back under me. This is why I'm here right now. Okay, where it comes to to purpose for abduction, you've got checking the evolution of man, seeing what the species is up to, checking family units and migratory patterns. Understand, humans are still, by and large, nomadic. Okay, meaning they move from one place to another. So, off-worlders, especially if they're tracking, will pick up family members, and quite often this is generational running. Oh, here we are. Robin, just a point in fact, if you've got questions, absolutely you got one of two options. Post them in the chat room. I will do my best. But if you're posting them in the chat room, absolutely put them in all capitals. Now, we focus on the alien phenomenon on Fridays and Saturdays. Okay, but if you've got a question, absolutely post it. I do try and make note of them and answer them when I can. No, thanks, Ellie. Ellie goes, if you're completely off rail, Keith, I'm completely whacked as well. The other option is if you go to www.buymeacoffee.com/innervoice.J. That will show you how to get a hold of me and send me a message. I will do my best to answer. There's even consulting if you've got complicated ones, not to mention the books that I've written. Okay, and those I'm working on adding to. One of the biggest challenges, and this is where it really becomes important regarding questions. So many people go, I've got questions, but I don't want to sound like I'm a complete nutcase. 90% of the questions people ask, and I kid you not, it's that high, other people have already asked. Okay, so you're probably sitting on questions that other people are saying they're going, but I don't want to sound like a nutcase. And here's the problem. So many so-called professionals, and yes, I am saying so-called professionals because they work in the industry, they're big names, and you call them up. Eve, how you doing? Glad you could join us. So many of them say, oh, I'm a specialist in alien abductions. And the moment you open your mouth and say, I think I may have been abducted, so many of them turn around and go, they turn around and go, oh, you're just saying that to get to draw attention. I refuse to do that to people. I'm not the one to tell you you have been abducted or you haven't, but I may be able to help you understand what's going on with some of what you've been seeing. This is why I've got a book out called Races of the World. It contains information on 60 different races, humans being one of them, by the way. I should say 60 different species. Okay. Decode, how are we doing? Glad you could join us. Decode, just point blank, Roswell was an intriguing little issue, but you might want to look into it a little more. I'm not involved with the PSYOP side of it, so to be honest, I don't look at a lot of the mainstream stuff. I'm not what you would call a researcher. I'm what you would call an experiencer. And I've been going through it since I was, born. It's been an interesting ride. And this is why I say when we're dealing with abductions, okay, we are dealing with a number of things. They're looking at the reticulans primarily. Well, they're the ones that developed the hybridization program. And the reason they did that, is because the triple helix that humans have is the most versatile and balanced helix that they've got, making it really good for working with hybridization. Okay, but there are those, like, for instance, pray you don't get taken by the vegans. Okay, vegans do not have a pain center. Okay, the only reason a vegan knows they've lost an arm is because they can no longer pick anything up on that side of their body. Nice part about the whole thing, and this is where I run into snags with people a lot. Where are we? There we go. Yeah. Eve goes, I believe, Bob, I've never been abducted, but I did see a ghost. And they're always fun. I like that phrase there, Philip. Philip goes, you're not a researcher, you're a free searcher. The way I see it, I've met some of the most bizarre people, and I don't mean humans. I've met those too, but and I keep looking at it going, I can't have this much information. Except I keep running into people that corroborate what I've been seeing. Now, people go, well, people have told me that Earth is a petri dish. Earth is not a petri dish. It's also, by the way, not a game reserve. Although there are game reserves that some humans have been taken to. Now, the one thing that we have to look at, is I am not the one to tell people, have you gone through something? I simply am here. Wow. Did I miss Joe coming in? It looks like I missed a Joe. I did. Joe Daniel. My apologies. Glad you could join us. Sadly, I don't catch everybody going and coming in. This is why I said I keep an eye on the chat room, but I am not perfect by any means. I only actually watch one chat room because it's that complicated for me. Okay, I'm going to have to put a stop to certain things here, guys. Because I will tell you, with the way the conversation, the chatter in the chat room is going, there's an interesting problem. Okay, if no man has gone higher than 73 miles, I'm guessing this means that nobody went to the moon or anywhere else. So we got to get away from that thought line, because I'm not here to prove it one way or the other. What do I got? Let's see. Robin's going, do you feel most alien species are negative or positive? The short answer would be no. The reality is, in every species, just like in humans, there are positive individuals and negative individuals. Okay, in every species. But is any one species inherently negative? No. There are some that are inherently aggressive. You take a look at the Xenon. They are essentially a robotic race, and they have a very definitive problem with bionomes. Okay, but humans, but when it comes to overall, you're looking at just a group of other people. Getting to being nice and being good. That is something every species has. Some are good, some are bad, some are absolutely neutral. For instance, when you take a look at the reticulans, the massive majority of them are basically good people. They're scientists, and that's all there is to it. But you do have those that are humanitarian, if you'll pardon the expression, where they reach out to try and help people, and there are those that will sell whatever they've got to the highest bidder. In my books, making them kind of a negative. Okay, but there are fearmongers and peacemakers in every species I've run into. And where am I looking here? Yeah, thanks for clearing that up, LA. Yeah, Eve, whatever you do, when I make a comment, and this goes to all of you, whenever I make a comment that is a broad band. Take it simply this way. If it applies to you, take it to heart. If it doesn't, don't take it on. You know, one of the important factors that we have to take a look at. Ah, there we go. Thanks so much, Storm. When we take a look at abductions, you call it abductions to start with because people are taken against their will. I am what you would call, and I was abducted when I was a kid. It all started off. That was cute. I cannot believe I just read that. I cannot believe that somebody was that way inclined. Anyway, when I was a kid, I used to get abducted. Okay, I wasn't taken by of my own free will. I wasn't even asked about it. But later on, as time evolved, I became classified as a contactee, and now in many circles as a liaison. Okay, where I will help different species interact with each other for exactly the same reason. I do not look at various different people, at whoever they are, whatever the race, whatever the species. They are, all of you qualify as the same thing. You're just people in a different vehicle. Now, for those of you that caught it, and I'm only going to touch on this briefly, for those of you that caught what was going on in the chat room, we had a guest in here. I will answer that for you in just 10 seconds, Eve, so keep your ears open, please. We had a guest in here that was creating a problem, was warned, don't. And they just made a comment that I cannot believe they actually did it. I'm not going to repeat it because I don't do that. I don't swear. I'm not even going to tell you who it was. But that's how fast you can vanish. Now, Eve, you've asked a question. Is it possible I'm an alien hybrid? Now, the short answer, well, before I answer that, just for future reference, just a reminder, definitely please put your questions in all caps. It's not considered yelling. It just gets my attention. But is it possible you're a hybrid? Certainly. Am I one that can tell you absolutely yes or absolutely no? No. But I can give you a couple of markers. Okay. Take a look at your dietary requirements. Okay. Do you respond normally to standard food or to standard medication? Okay. This is normal. There's a couple of other things that you watch for. Okay. Not the least of which is whether or not you feel like you've been being followed. Hybrids are, I heard one very well-placed professional, I will not tell you who it was. Okay. I saw I heard one really well-placed professional in the UFO industry state flat out, and this would be about a decade, maybe 15 years back. So they may have changed their perspective. But they flat out stated that every hybrid knows they're a hybrid. And this is absolutely false. Okay. That's like telling people that every human adoptee knows they were adopted. And Eve, Robin, you did ask a very good question. Robin asked of Eve, was your interaction friendly? There's a whole lot of things that go on with hybridization. And rest assured, reticulans are not the only race that gets hybridized. Because you got to remember, and we'll do this show again down the road. I've done, if you look up a former show we did on hybridization, I go into the whole 9 yards of what it actually is. Oh, there we are. You know, one of the nice parts about this whole thing is where it comes to abductions, they are inherently a frightening thing. You know, people just automatically, you get abducted, of course it's going to be frightening, especially if you're abducted by something that is non-human looking. Okay, I mean, let's face it, if you're strapped to a table and you're looking down on a reptilian, okay, this is going to be a frightening thing. You know, one of the biggest things, like, if you can bring yourself to relax, if you have been abducted, you know, if you're taken by an off-worlder and you have been abducted, if, and this is a very big if, okay, if you are able to remind yourself that they're not there to intentionally hurt you in most cases, okay, then what you end up with is you'll be able to relax a little. Now, rest assured, if they're breaking your limbs, which was the first thing I encountered when I got taken as a child. Oh, there we are. Eve goes, my diet makes me sick unless I eat like once a day. You know, I used to eat only once a day. I started like 6 o'clock in the morning when I get up, and I quit at 10 o'clock at night when I go to bed. But I think you're referring to one meal. Well, that was one meal. But yeah, there's a lot of things that can indicate it. But understand, not, you know, everyone that has that kind of a dietary requirement is not necessarily an abductee or a hybrid. Okay. Yeah. Philip, you're absolutely right. I'm actually looking into a lot of the additives and getting back to natural food. Okay. And even some of that's questionable. But what I got here. You know, the big thing with abductions is these guys sometimes, especially if you're looking at like Martokians. Now, Martokians, by the way, these are locals. Okay, they are off-worlders. They live on Mars. Now, the thing with the Martokian is they are green. Okay, and they're around the 6 foot mark. Not little green men like from Bugs Bunny. Okay, but they're around the 6 foot mark, and they have reversed knees. But their whole civilization is underground. So sometimes they come here just to see what the planet is like. It's called a class outing. You know, one other thing that abductions take place for is, like, they're taking samples, certainly. But that's because of a number of things. Either researching dietary protocols, maybe they're looking at the changes in diet between people living in the Arctic and people living on the equator. You know, I mean, there are so many things. Talk to the scientists that are abducting lions and tigers and bears. Oh my! You know, they're doing it for all kinds of different reasons. You know, one of the biggest things you got to realize with the abductions is, on the whole, they are not trying to do anything wrong. Okay, and yes, there are those like the Maldogs that do hunt humans. Okay, if you want to get a look at a Maldog, watch the movie watch the movie Predator, starring Arnold Schwarzenegger from, I think, back in the 80s. I think. Okay. They are based on the Predator. The critter in Predator is based on the Moldog. Okay, and the Moldog have been here for longer than mankind has been. But we also have to realize anything humans are concerned with. Here we are. Let me just see here. There we go. Eva's just said, I remember as a child being in a big circular white room, like a huge lobby, but outside. But outside. The windows. Oh, outside the windows, it was, where are we? It was red and dusty, like Mars. Yeah, and that would not be a shock. That is normal for abductions. Okay, quite often, especially because there's been a lot of cases where people will meet off world. They'll both be abducted from different sides of the world and be put in the same room. This is a social experiment. They're not trying to do a problem. Robin, you've asked, after seeing craft as a young child, does that mean you've been abducted? Absolutely not. It does mean you may have been, but all it really tells you is that you've seen craft that you didn't recognize. Remember, an unidentified flying object is just that. Okay, many people see them, but have never actually been taken. It's kind of like many people have seen lightning, but never been hit. Thankfully, buddy of mine's been hit twice. He was not pleased with that. Where are we? I ran into all kinds of problems there, Blue, but I am literally currently, let's face it, the short answer is not quite. But August, I got married. September, I died. October, I've been recovering. Okay, but we've started going through the races one step at a time and getting them ready for print. Okay, so that is at this point one of my two primary projects. I will tell you at last count, the Races of the World's book 1, the first edition, is about 63 pages. The second edition is coming out at close to 100. And yes, as soon as it's available, I will let people know, because it's coming complete with more information, more technology, and pictures. Okay, and no photographs. We're dealing with hand-drawn. But I will let you know when that comes out. And I'm working on a number of different issues. There are a number of smaller books that are being written titled Meet Thee, Feeling the Species. Okay, so this is why I say I'm working on close to 100 books concurrently right now. Where are we? Eve goes, also I've been dreaming of Jupiter. And looked it up. Looked up its frequency and fell asleep to it sometimes. The neat part there is Jupiter is a wonderful planet. Now, since you've been dreaming of Jupiter, EO has an outpost on it. Not an alien outpost, but a human one. Okay, that's one of the moons of Jupiter. And these are all things, and this is literally because, like I said, because Friday and Saturday we focus on we focus on the alien side of it. These kinds of comments and questions in the chat room are absolutely encouraged. And thank you guys for those of you that are putting the questions in all caps. It makes it so much easier to find them. Now, I notice we are getting down to the last few minutes here. That said, oh, we got 10. Okay. That said, where am I here? That one. Okay. Now, just a quick note. Tomorrow, which is Sunday the 26th, we'll be looking at the healing power of belief. On Monday, we'll be looking at generating an income with credit. And then on Tuesday, we'll be looking at success equals belief plus active effort. Okay, these are the topics coming up this week. But where it comes to abduction, hopefully some of you have got the idea. Where are we here? Joey goes, Joey, how you doing? Goes, sorry, off topic, but what do you think of the 3-eye atlas thing? What do you think the 3-eye atlas thing is, Keith? I hate to put it to you this way. I'd love to give you an answer, but as I don't do any research, unless somebody can fill me in on what the 3-eye thing, what the 3-eye atlas is, I'm going to have a problem with it, with trying to explain it. But I don't watch any of the streams that are going on. I don't listen to any of the bigwigs, or for that matter, any of the smaller channels. That said, I'm more than willing to come on somebody else's channel and absolutely talk or do an interview with you. And you get to ask all the questions you'd like. We just have to schedule it around my end. But, I'd be happy to give you an answer. But at this point, I just don't have one.
Keith, may I have a moment?
Absolutely, sir.
All right. For those of you who are interested in UFOs and alien abductions and that sort of thing, tonight our friend Nathan from the Quantum Show is having a panel-only show. And it'll be starting here probably at about 10 to 15 minutes. Go to YouTube, look up Nathan from the Quantum Show. That is his channel. And you can find a link there for his panel broadcast tonight. LA will be on there. And also our friend DJ Wardove, Sarah, and possibly even Raven McMahon. We'll see what happens tonight. So if you all will come in and just check it out and see what you think, and you've been invited. Thanks, Keith.
No problem at all. That's the thing. When you take people like Nathan, who is one of our moderators when he has time, referring people back and forth to channels that we know are quality, we absolutely encourage. Robin goes, Eve, that sounds like my mothership.
Actually, let me add something else. Nathan has actually been talking about the 3-eye atlas object on the Quantum Show. Yeah, he's got a little more information on it, so if you guys want to pop over there, you might be able to ask some questions during the panel. So give it a shout out.
Well, I appreciate the information. I'm absolutely certain that our listeners do. What are we down to? Yep, we are. Now, that said, guys, I see we're just approaching the 5-minute mark. So this said, we are here from Friday through Tuesday, 8 p.m., from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. Pacific time. Okay, so we will see you again tomorrow. I am really happy you guys dropped in, and thanks so much, guys, especially you newcomers I haven't seen. Well, realistically, it's not just a question of especially, because I'm really happy with the regulars that are in here. But absolutely, thanks so much for sharing your time with us tonight. Really appreciate it. Look forward to seeing you and answering your questions again in the future. Until then, we will be back again tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Pacific. And until then, do take care of yourselves and each other. And for pity's sakes, stay positive,